What's going on, everybody? Phil and Tyler here with another 5Tool Productions video podcast. How are you?
I'm good. 5Tool Prod Pod.
5Tool Prod Pod.
That's what we're kind of
5Tool Prod Pod.
But it's 5Tool Prod Vid Pod.
Yeah, leave that part. It's like Bob Woblaw's Law Blog.
See, I don't watch TV, so I can't speak to
Bob Woblaw's Law Blog. You don't know what that means.
So what's today's topic, Seth?
Today's topic on Bob Woblaw's Law Blog is the concept of creating versus documenting, when specifically in video, but I guess in anything. Creating versus documenting, kind of what the difference is, what the trends are, what we've seen out there, kind of what it means for you. So this is something you talk a lot about with me, and you've actually kind of opened my eyes to a little bit, so I want to give it to you.
Well, it's interesting. It's kind of, you mentioned the trend. It's not necessarily a verse. It's kind of what's going on is documenting the new form of content creation, right? So take a look at Snapchat. You know, when you're using Snapchat, you're typically using it when you're out on the road, if you're out showing behind the scenes of what's going on, something quick, and it's what's taking place at that point in time. And then you look at other things like Instagram stories is another great example of that. But take that a step further and take a look around and see what other brands and what other people and individuals are doing. I look at Gary Vaynerchuk.
Yeah.
You know, everybody
Probably
knows
the best
Gary
example,
V.
honestly.
The best example that a lot of people will know, Gary Vaynerchuk has the Daily V, which he has his D-Rock guy follow him around and puts together what happened in that day, right? So it's the kind of the day in the life of Gary V.
And why the hell is it interesting? Like, it is, though.
But here's the thing. Why is it interesting? What I think what's happened over the course of time, I actually, you know, I blame reality TV, Phil, and it's
Damn kids.
No, but
get off my lawn.
But really, what happens? It's the voyeur in all of us want to know what's going on in someone's life, and if you're an interesting person, or if you're at least a little, either whether it's flamboyant, whether you're outspoken, whatever it may be. Another great example is Dana Lynn Bailey and Rob Bailey. The two. She was, you know, one of the Olympia competitors. Who seemed like just such nice people, especially for the fact that they're dog people, and so am I. So, you know, when you're an animal person, I tend to gravitate towards you a little bit more. But they document when they went on a long hike, and they just kind of showed what they did the entire time. So it's not just about, you know, creating versus documenting. I think that documenting at this point in time needs to be a part of your content marketing strategy, not just the creation part.
So why? Is it in order to get to know you better personally? Like, you talk about Gary Vee, and it's a little bit different for him because he really weaves in so much about his marketing and telling your story, and that's a lot of what he does anyway. You talk about some of the other folks who you just mentioned, and I guess the question is, why? Is it just so that you can get to know them more personally, so when you see them doing other things you care more, or is it to show what they know about as, you know, in their field? Like, why? What's
so an interesting guy that I follow, I've just randomly kind of started following, is Casey Neistat. You know, odd cat, really cool dude.
A little eccentric, but that's why it's fun to watch.
Awesome. He's fun to watch. And what's interesting, I watch it because I find myself saying, wow, he does a lot of stuff with drones. He does a lot of things with GoPros, different angles with cameras, showing off, you know, different types of things.
Inspired us to get that.
Guess what? This is a great example of someone that does it right. It's probably blocking my face right now.
No, it's good. Seriously, it inspired us to get that.
But it inspired us to get that. And guess what? For Casey Neistat, that in particular, the link I sent you was from his. Guess what?
Right.
Casey Neistat's getting a cut of it. Casey Neistat's
a referral,
getting referral money. I'm sure of it. I think. I could be wrong. So
I hope so. I mean, he sold us on it.
But he sold us on it because we enjoyed to see how he was creating something. And again, he put something together just about every day.
Right.
And it's a lot of work. It is. That's the thing that's tough. It's a lot of work. That's why you see some companies are charging as a barrier to entry 25 grand for it. But here's the thing. You might say, or 25 grand a month, for it.
Right.
But, you know, you might go out and say, if you're a CEO of a big company, you might say, all right, do I invest $50,000, $60,000 on just one individual to come in and their daily job is to follow me around and create content? Well, here's the thing. We talk about good content, and we talk about a lot of content. We talked about that in a previous episode. That's one way to do that, is to have one person totally dedicated. I mean, obviously that hurts us as a business, so I'm not totally advocating
But then they know
it.
your brand, and they know what you're trying to accomplish, and you know they're going to do everything kind of the way you want it to, right? But not everybody does that. The guy you mentioned, Casey, he seems to do a lot of it himself, right? And I think that no matter what, you have to be really comfortable seeing yourself on camera, even if you have someone else shooting it for you.
Yep.
And a lot of people aren't. You know, I'm not. A lot of people
tough.
aren't. And you
Look
have
at him. Are you kidding me? He's crushing it.
No, but you have to get past that
Yeah.
initial kind of barrier of, am I going to say something stupid? You know, what am I even filming? What am I
But
doing
here's
this
the thing.
for?
I don't think, I mean, if you look at those people in particular, you know, Gary Vee is one person that's obviously really good on camera. He talks to the camera sometimes, but in his daily
mainly
V,
just-
more often than not, it's capturing what's going on. Him going into meetings, giving
Yeah.
sales pitches, him walking around talking to other employees, or
Right.
him kind of just walking down the street,
Sure.
or what he's listening to at this point in time. I remember watching one episode and he was saying, I just love this song, and it was him playing in the background, right? So it's not necessarily someone sitting down and talking to a camera for 5 days straight. You'd be,
Right.
as a CEO, you'd lose a whole heck of a lot of productivity if you were doing that.
No,
just
you're
talking
right.
constantly.
But you mentioned Gary Vee, and he's he's kind of this magnetic personality, and he's always going 1,000 miles an hour, and you know he never takes a minute off. And not everybody is that way. Some people
Yeah.
are a little more introverted. So like, what do you do in that case? What do you suggest in that case?
Well, that part's tough, and maybe that person that is more of the introvert shows what's going on externally. They don't have to talk. I mean, I've worked with
Sure.
a company that it was really interesting to hear them talk about it. Say, well, I don't have anything interesting to say. I don't really like to speak in front of the
Well,
camera.
that's a bad. If you feel that way, honestly, that's kind of a bad thing
tough.
too. but-
Well, you are speaking for your brand. You are
Right.
speaking for your company. If you were saying you don't have something interesting to say, you were saying your brand
Right.
doesn't have something
Right.
interesting
That's a
to
bigger
say.
problem, yeah.
And that's a bigger issue that you really need to look at. So again,
Little
it-
reevaluation.
It's going back through and saying, if you are someone that sells sneakers,
Sure.
have your person go and show in the process, not just create a great video, which we've done. We've created videos about the creation of sneakers.
Yeah, you're right.
But
You're right.
show
So is that creation or documentation?
that's creation, but it's also a little documentation in the same breath. But I'll use another example of guy you're going to see on one of our other pieces, what we call it, heavy hitters, big hitters, power hitters.
I haven't decided.
You know, we're kind of still toying with the name, but his name is Nick Schiffer. He owns Ennis Builders.
Yep.
And local here in Boston, what's been interesting to follow along with Nick, you'll hear Nick's story. I'll kind of talk with Nick. It's pretty funny because Nick and I met at a wedding, believe it or not, and we had a dance off. So, it's funny how
what
dance
song?
offs actually, what
Thriller?
song? It was basically the entire night.
Okay.
So, several different songs.
assume
Our
it might be
wives
Thriller.
became friends and then they hated us. So,
yeah.
but that's neither
No,
here
that
nor
makes
there.
sense, though.
We'll talk about that. My wife usually hates me after weddings, anyways, just because the amount of cut and rug I do. But really, when you look at a guy like Nick, he's got a small company local here to Boston. He's a builder.
Right.
He actually, I follow him on Instagram stories all the time. And what's interesting, what he does is he just walks in, hey guys, I'm in the shop right now. Here's what we're working on today.
Yep.
Literally explaining. He's a charismatic guy. He does a really great job of explaining it. But
true.
he also, what's interesting, not just him in front of the camera, but what's going on, what his business is actually doing. If you're interested, if you own a home and you're
Right.
in the Boston area,
Right.
you might be curious to see, hey, I'm putting together stairs right
Just
now.
some ideas,
He literally
yeah.
was building a hutch for some sort for a TV stand.
Sure.
Basically, and he was building that right in the shop, and he was saying, here's what's going. Here's the side panels. Here's the doors that are going to be part of the cabinet,
Right.
and it's going to come together. And I'm going to continue to document this as we go. And what was funny was the day he was actually doing it, and this just shows the engagement that actually happens. I never laughed so hard. Was he actually then had another 15-second video? Someone said, so I've got a lot of questions from people wanting to know where my shirt is from. My shirt is from X company. But that's what happens.
Right.
People actually get engrossed with what you're doing. They say, hey, I really like that shirt.
And they
I
do
really
get to
like-"
know you
and
personally
they get
too,
to know
which,
you,
which is helpful.
which you want that as a
Right.
brand. You want them to
Yeah.
get to know you and have
Right.
that personal connection with you, right?
No, and I mean, and you talk about not thinking you have anything to say, and like you might think if you're a builder and you go in day and out, and you're like, okay, we're doing the same thing every day. It might feel that way to you, but to the average person, it's kind of cool. Like I'm sitting at my desk all day, and, you know, I'm the average person sitting in a cube, sitting at my desk all day. I don't get to go play with making stairs and hunches and like, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
So it is interesting for other people. So what's not interesting to you, you know, just because it's not interesting to you because you do it a lot doesn't mean it's not going to be interesting to other people.
And you might have talked about it, might have said it a billion
Sure,
times. I mean,
sure.
I'm sorry, but Gary Vaynerchuk, I love watching him. He does a great job. He says a lot of the same thing
Sure,
every
of
single
course,
time.
but he's
It's
on message.
put in
He's on
effort.
message, right.
It's put in effort, work hard, and know what you're good at, and know
Yeah.
what you're right. So it's kind of self-awareness is his big thing, and he talks about it all the time, which is great. That's on brand for him. That is perfect every single time.
So what do you do right away? Like what's your advice to someone who's like, okay, cool, I'm in. I want to document and like get some documentation out there a
So
little bit.
before you actually even start promoting everything, if you're someone that's an introvert, I would say walk around with a camera and literally start filming things. You don't necessarily have to post anything yet, but take a little bit of time from a documentation.
Just on your
point of
phone,
view.
you're saying?
Just on a phone, and start saying this might be good, and then start picking things out that you actually like, and say that, well, maybe I'll test this and post this up later.
Sure.
So start picking and choosing. And again, here's the thing: because you hit the record button, doesn't mean you have to hit the post button.
Right.
There's
That's a good
that
point.
second barrier to entry. Unless you do Facebook Live, it's a different story.
Maybe do a little practice.
But
before
do
you
some
go live.
practice
Yeah,
before you, just to get comfortable with it. And here's the other thing. When you are documenting kind of your day and you're documenting who you are, your personality comes through. And how that helps your company is the fact that when it's time for cold calls, they're not so
not as
cold
cold. It's a
anymore.
little warmed up.
Because they start to know you. You say, hey, I'm Tyler.
Oh my God, I saw
Oh
you.
my gosh,
Yeah,
I saw.
yeah.
Hopefully that's the case.
Sure,
and if
yeah.
you're reaching out to these people
Hopefully
and they
you have
have
good
no
lists who
idea who you are, well then here's what the issue with that is that your reach isn't what it should be.
Right.
And maybe you're calling the wrong company because they're not
You got to
watching.
figure out who's actually watching this. And I mean, to the point about shooting quick and then going through it and everything, there's some really either cheap or free editing software that can help you stitch this stuff together too, right? So
Yeah. So create, document, do all the above. Have some fun doing it too.
Yeah.
That's the big piece of it. Don't think of it as a job. Think of it as, no, this is fun.
some
Just
fun.
have it with you at all times. He's Phil. I'm Tyler. 5 Tool Productions. Thank you guys for watching.